Hollywood. That's good way Holly, holy Hollywood.
This is Roger Simon.
And Lionel Chetwin.
And we welcome you back to a special edition of Poliwood. Let me set the scene for you. On November the 19th, 2009, somebody, a hacker, or possibly an insider, more likely an insider now,
or just
downloaded a tremendous...
A fine-spirited citizen.
A fine-spirited citizen downloaded a tremendous amount of material now available at Pajamas TV by PJTV. All the details and all the emails and texts from the East Anglia University, the mainstays of anthropogenic or man-made global warming.
But
now
Roger, how does that affect those of us in Hollywood?
Well, there's one guy who in Hollywood it should be affecting, and he is Al Gore. And he's in Hollywood because?
He's in Hollywood because of a film called An Inconvenient Truth. And he is in Hollywood because, I think we both spent our adult life in Hollywood, which we should explain is not a place on a map. It's a state of mind. And certainly Al Gore is in Hollywood in that sense. And most
he became more and more in Hollywood because of the Oscar for Inconvenient Truth, which was awarded technically to David Guggenheim and a handful of other producers, including Lawrence Bender. But he was the reason.
He was the reason.
And what are we calling for right now? Let's get to the sound bite first.
Well, I'm calling for a very measured response. Let me tell you what I'm calling for, okay? Because I think you jumped right through all the reasoning. Here's the point. An Inconvenient Truth, which was embraced by Hollywood with an alacrity that I've rarely seen, even for the films that they love the most, which is it was a very poorly made film. It was a poorly made documentary.
Oh, it was like one of those things you see in school for tooth decay.
They gave it to it anyway. Now,
they gave it an Oscar.
Subsequent to the film, certain things became apparent. There has been for some time a presumption of dishonesty about this film, a presumption of fraudulence about the film. First of all, they've acknowledged that much of the very dramatic footage of ice caps falling away not only was not taken by them or used by them or even file footage, it was in fact CGI, generated by a fiction movie, by a fictionally done film to try and make some dramatic point. A British court has found the film so fraudulent that it said it can only be shown in schools if there is a six-point disclaimer. But the Academy gladly conferred the Oscar. Now, I spent my adult life here. We, 2 weeks ago, did a thing on the Oscars, and we both agreed that if there's one process that may be clean, it's the Oscars.
That's right.
They're pretty uncorruptible.
Except the documentary division, which we've always said has a lot of corruption in it, but this time more than ever.
It's an outrage that it got it. We all knew that. Right. Finally, the Academy has an opportunity to clean its hands, to wash its hands of this unpleasant. I mean, one of the things, I don't hold up much and say, look, I did something good. But my membership in the Academy, the nomination, I'm proud of those things. They do say something. I admit
I'm proud of it too.
I'm cynical old
I'm
man.
going to being a Hollywood guy, I'm going to cut this chase here. I personally call for the Academy to rescind this Oscar. I've never heard in the history of the Academy, I have not, to my knowledge, has an Oscar ever been rescinded. I think they should rescind this one.
Well, I'm calling for a more measured response.
I
would like the Academy to convene, because I'd like this, I don't want it, that's too simple. I would like the Academy to convene in public. Let's get to appoint, if you will, a special prosecutor. Someone like Chuck Braverman, who is one of the great documentary filmmakers who works at the Academy, does necrophilia every year, does words, genuinely respected documentarian, to convene an open hearing to be held at the Academy, to admit cameras, to bring these people forward, all of them, not just the two people that received the award, but Al Gore, anyone connected with the film, Laurie David, who was out pushing with them, and ask them the following questions. Did you know that fake footage was in that film? Did you know that the science upon which you were basing it was a lie? Well, when did you know?
That's the one.
Call them, not merely just say, oh, there's a piece of garbage. Footage. That's too easy, Roger. That's too easy. They lied, and they should be called to the public account for having lied. And the Academy,
I agree with you on the fake science, not on the fake. By the way, not on the fake footage.
It's called peer review. It's a document. You don't use fake footage unless you label it. It's called peer review. They're all claiming, oh, I listened to Ed Begley last night. I like Ed Begley. He's a good guy. I think he lives what he claims. He's one of the few honest people. You know, He said, it's all about peer review. Then let's have a little peer review. Let's call these people
Well,
forward.
so this
You claim to be
Climategate-
documentary. Let's get them and ask them these questions. What did you know? How did you cheat? Did you cheat? And if so, did you know you were cheating? Who knew what?
Well, this is a great...
Because it shouldn't just be the award. It should be the membership in the Academy.
Well, first of all, you will never get Al Gore. How do I know that? Many, many people have wanted to debate Al Gore on global warming. He has refused all of them, including most recently and most famously Lord Monckton. Because he's a billionaire off of this, he will not go there. It's going to be up to the Academy to do this themselves. I would love to see Al Gore defend himself in front of the Academy or anybody else, but he ain't going to do it.
The Academy has no subpoena powers.
No.
But it does have the power, with a mighty media machine of Hollywood, a state of mind and not a place on a map, to call for him to come forward and discuss his involvement in a film against which there was a presumption of deep fraud, for which I seem to remember him going up on the stage and receiving the award.
Oh, yes.
We need to solve the climate crisis. It's not a political issue, it's a moral issue. We have everything we need to get started. With the possible exception of the will to act, that's a renewable resource. Let's renew it.
So he is implicated deeply. We can't subpoena him, but then he could say, no, I'm sorry, I'm only involved in receiving the award. I'm not involved in explaining why we deserved it.
Well, I mean, listen, I'd love to be there, and I'd love to support this happening, but as I said, there's been a lineup of people who wanted to debate Gore on this issue, and he's refused to do it.
Look,
So
I
think the Academy is going to have to act on its own, but
write to the Academy and ask them to inquire into the bona fides of this film, because it has been a weapon. It has been it has been a principal element in this bubble, this science bubble. Junk science is pushing out good science. Yes, there is something going on out there, global climate change, whatever you want to call it. The problem is that this little coterie of dishonest people who have managed a quarter of the market with their junk science are making it impossible for good science to explain what's going on. They're pushing us into cap and trade and other ways to control our lives, whereas if science were allowed to be free, we might be able to come up with some answers. One of the principal weapons in their perversion of truth and of the minds of many people, especially young kids, they're showing this film in the school, has been this film. This is a prime example of how the popular culture can be used in a political way. The Academy, which has actually got a really good record of standing above this kind of thing and not being politicized, has a real duty here to protect the honesty, the bona fides of the entire popular culture. And all they've got to do, I'm not saying, call them up, fire them, but inquire into it. For goodness sakes, ask about it.
well, that will never happen.
That's pretty measured, isn't it?
Yes, you're measured, I'm not. Because the situation calls for a real response. They're not going to do that. Unfortunately, the Academy, I don't feel as romantic about the Academy as you do. I think that they are governed by people who want to believe that Gore is telling the truth. And they would not have given an award to a movie that is this aesthetically mediocre had they not.
Okay,
So we go back to the original awarding of that, to a real mediocre film. Now, what has happened is a whole dump of information has called to question everything about this. In fact, more than you said, because the whole nature of global warming has been called to question now. I mean, it may be we're going into a cooling period. None of this stuff is clear.
Don't you remember global cooling? I used to I grew up with
that was
that
the
fear.
Newsweek magazine famous thing of the 1970s.
I prefer the heat to the cold.
And this, with the same scientists who were involved in this one. And on that note, let's wrap it up. You're calling it for an investigation. I'm calling for rescinding, but we're both calling for action.
I'm calling for a public investigation.
Yeah, no, I got that. Absolutely. Anyway, we'll follow this story because, PJTV and Pajamas Media are following the Climategate story closely, but it relates to, as Lionel says, to the arts in our country. All of this is tied together. So this is Roger Simon.
And Lionel Chetwynd.
Until next time in Poliwood, when we'll maybe see some movies again.
Yeah.
Hooray for Hollywood. Let's go away, Hollywood.